Right, so I've just finished watching episode 7, and there's this one scene that I genuinely can't stop thinking about. You know the bit where Jax is about to press that red button? Just before he does it, we get these really brief flashes, like fragments of memories from the real world. And honestly, when you piece together what these images might be showing us, along with some other stuff we've seen throughout the series, it builds into quite a dark theory about who Jax actually is and what he's running from. Let me walk you through what we're actually looking at in these flashback sequences. There's footage of what appears to be a quiet suburban area, the kind with tree-lined streets, houses with their lights on, proper residential vibes. There's even a speed limit sign showing 20 miles per hour, which tells you straight away this is a family neighborhood. The sort of place where you'd expect to see kids about, maybe cycling home from school or playing outside before dinner. Then we get these other images that look like they've been captured from inside a vehicle, almost like dashcam footage, you know? One shows this completely empty road at night, surrounded by trees, no street lighting whatsoever, just the headlights cutting through total darkness. Another image shows a similar road, but this one's got a curve in it, and you can see how the headlights are lighting up the bend ahead. There's this real sense of movement to it, like speed, like something's building up to happen. When you look at all these images together, they start forming quite a specific narrative. We've got a residential neighborhood on one hand and these dark, isolated roads on the other. That combination feels really deliberate to me, like we're seeing bits and pieces of something that went horribly wrong. Now here's where things get properly grim, and it connects back to something from episode 4 that most people probably didn't pay much attention to at the time. Remember when Jax finished his shift at that fast food place and got into his car? The license plate read Jax001. At the time, people were throwing around theories. Maybe he's an NPC, maybe he was the first person trapped in the circus, that sort of thing. But what if it's actually much simpler and far more disturbing than any of that? What if that license plate is Kane's way of marking Jax's vehicle in the adventure as a direct reference to something that happened in real life? Because if Jax was driving when something terrible occurred, then every time Kane puts him behind the wheel in an adventure, he's essentially forcing him to relive that trauma. He's making him remember what it felt like to be in control of a vehicle when everything went wrong. This brings us to Jax's room, which we finally got a proper look at in episode 7, and it's decorated like a young girl's bedroom. Pink and purple walls, a little table with chairs, decorations that seem completely out of place for someone like Jax. When you first see it, it seems utterly random. Why on earth would his room look like that? But when you connect it to these flashback images and the theory about what might have happened, it suddenly clicks into place in quite a horrifying way. What if Jax hit a child that night? What if he was driving through that residential neighborhood? Perhaps going too fast, perhaps distracted, and a little girl ran out into the road. Maybe she was on her bike. Maybe she was just crossing the street at the wrong moment, and he couldn't stop in time. Those images of the dark roads could be him driving away in shock, or trying to find help, or possibly even fleeing the scene because he panicked and didn't know what else to do. But here's where this theory gets even darker. What if he didn't just panic momentarily? What if he actually committed a proper hit and run? Like, what if he left this child there and just kept driving? Didn't call emergency services, didn't stop to help, just fled because he was absolutely terrified of the consequences. That would completely change the legal situation he'd be facing in the real world. It's not just vehicular manslaughter at that point. It's a hit and run, which carries significantly harsher penalties and basically no public sympathy whatsoever. People can sometimes understand a terrible accident. They might even have compassion for someone who made an awful mistake but stayed to help. But someone who hits a child and then drives away and leaves them there? That's the kind of thing that destroys your entire existence. It makes you unemployable. It brings death threats. It turns you into someone your entire community despises. And if Jax genuinely did that, then yeah, returning to the real world means going to prison for years, possibly decades. And even after serving your time, your life is essentially finished because nobody's ever going to forgive something like that. There's another detail worth considering from episode 5. Remember when Regatha was talking about her verbally abusive mother? Jax went unusually quiet during that conversation. He normally makes sarcastic jokes about everything and tends to mock people when they're being vulnerable. But in that moment, he just went silent. What if that's because he's got his own history with a difficult home life? What if he was actually running away from home the night the accident happened? That would make the whole situation even more tragic. If Jax was a teenager trying to escape an abusive household, maybe he grabbed the car keys and left in the middle of the night. He was driving too fast because he was emotional and not thinking straight. And that's when he hit someone. Then he panicked even harder because now he's not just running from home, he's running from having killed someone. Maybe those dark, isolated roads in the flashbacks show him just driving with no particular destination, trying to get as far as possible from what he'd done. If that's the case, then Kane designing Jax's room to look exactly like what that little girl's bedroom might have been, that's incredibly cruel. It's basically psychological torture, specifically designed to ensure Jax never forgets what he did. Every single night when he goes to sleep, he's surrounded by reminders of the life he destroyed. Now look, this is obviously just a theory, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. But it would explain so much about Jax's character that we've been trying to work out since the beginning. He's not just mean for no reason. He's carrying this massive guilt about something he can't undo, something he can't take back. All his behavior, the cruelty, the insistence that nothing matters, the way he pushes everyone away, it's all coming from someone who genuinely believes he deserves to suffer, that he doesn't deserve friendship or happiness or any kind of redemption. This actually connects to something Gooseworx mentioned on social media that didn't get much discussion at the time. She said that out of all the circus members, Jax deserves to be there the most. When she said that, people were confused because we didn't really understand what it meant. But if this theory is correct, if Jax really did commit a hit and run that resulted in a child's death, then yeah, that statement makes complete sense. Fatal car accidents don't just affect you in the moment. They completely reshape how you see yourself. Even if it truly was an accident, even if there was genuinely nothing you could have done differently, you're still the person who was behind that wheel when someone died. That kind of guilt becomes part of your identity in ways that are almost impossible to explain. But when you add fleeing the scene on top of that, when you add the fact that you chose to save yourself instead of staying to help or calling for an ambulance, that guilt becomes something even heavier. Because now it's not just about the accident, it's about the moral failure you made afterwards, the choice you can never undo. What makes this even worse is that Kane clearly knows exactly what happened. And instead of helping Jax process this trauma or offering any path toward healing, he's actively weaponizing it against him. This actually tracks with what we've been learning about Kane throughout the series. He's not this innocent AI just trying to entertain everyone. He's been getting progressively more manipulative and cruel. Maybe this is evidence that he's always been this way, using people's worst memories and biggest regrets as tools to psychologically torment them. It makes you wonder about the other circus members' rooms too. If Jax's room is designed around his trauma, maybe everyone's is. We saw Zubal's room full of mirrors in episode 6, and at the time it seemed like maybe Kane was trying to help them find body parts they'd be comfortable with. But what if those mirrors are actually there to force Zubal to constantly confront a reflection they'll never be satisfied with, ensuring they can never escape their body dysmorphia even for a second? Going back to that license plate from episode 4, Jax 001 feels deliberately chosen by Kane for that adventure. It makes you wonder what other details in the adventures are pulled from the circus members' real lives. Maybe Kane has access to all their memories and constantly weaves in these little references to their trauma. Reminders that look innocent on the surface but hit completely differently when you know what they actually mean. That would explain why Jax sometimes seems to understand the circus better than the others, why he's so quick to recognize when Kane is messing with them. He's been paying attention to these patterns. He's noticed how the adventures always seem to have these personal touches designed to get under people's skin. But here's where episode 7's ending completely reframes everything. Jax ends up being the one who saves everyone by pushing that red button. Immediately after, he becomes hysterical, claiming that Kane's been messing with his head. And yeah, maybe Kane has been manipulating him. But what if those flashbacks we saw weren't planted by Kane at all? What if they were genuine memories that surfaced in that moment of extreme pressure? What if Jax pushed that button not because Kane forced him to, but because he was genuinely terrified of returning to his human life? Think about that conversation he had with Zubul earlier in the episode.
What's the rush? You got someone waiting for you outside?
Don't you?
You could see on Jax's face that he doesn't have anyone. If that's true, if Jax genuinely has nobody and nothing to go back to, then maybe his human life was actually worse than being trapped in the digital circus. Which is absolutely mental when you think about it. What kind of existence do you have to be living for a digital prison where you're psychologically tortured daily to be the preferable option? When you combine that with the theory about the car accident and potential hit-and-run charges, it paints this picture of someone whose entire real-world existence had already collapsed before they ever arrived at the circus. If Jax killed a child while driving and then fled, his real life probably involved active warrants, criminal charges that could result in decades of imprisonment, the victim's family searching for him, and just this overwhelming weight of guilt and shame that made every single day unbearable, plus the constant fear of being caught. Maybe that's why he doesn't want to go back. Going back means facing actual consequences for what he did. Compared to that, staying in the circus where he can at least pretend none of it matters and be cruel without facing real-world repercussions, that's actually the easier choice. This completely changes how we should interpret his behavior throughout the series. He's not just someone who's given up on escape because he thinks it's impossible. He's someone who doesn't actually want to escape, who's actively chosen to stay in the circus because whatever's waiting for him outside is worse than anything Kane can do to him. The really messed up part is that this means Jax has been trapped twice over. Maybe that's what those flashbacks were really showing us. Not just what Jax did, but why he can never go back. Why, even when presented with the possibility of escape, he chose to push the button that keeps everyone trapped. For him, there is no outside. There's just the circus and the memories of what he did. He'd rather stay here where he can at least control the narrative about who he is than go back to a world where everyone already knows the worst thing about him. So those flashback images aren't just showing us Jax's trauma. They're showing us why he is the way he is. Why he pushes everyone away. Why he insists nothing matters. He's living in a reality where his human life has been so completely destroyed by one terrible mistake, and then the even worse choice to run from it, that even eternal imprisonment in a digital circus feels like the better option. And honestly, that's one of the most devastating character revelations we've gotten in this entire show. Anyway, that's my take on it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Cheers for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.